I'd like to discuss with you today a difficult topic, the greatest source of human suffering. And I don't take this topic lightly. There is a tremendous amount of suffering in this world. Um, Tragedy, abuse, neglect. But what I do want to do is I want to maybe give some insight to some of the unnecessary tragedy in many people's lives. And this happens in little over half a second. And I will explain that in a minute. One of the main topics we're going to discuss today is time. Time is a fascinating study in science, in religion, and philosophy. All right? We have been given a memory so that we can understand opposites and so that we don't have to relearn brushing our teeth or driving the car, but we don't have a memory so we can obsess about an immutable past. The other thing we have is we have an imagination, so we can look to the future, so we can recreate our life. However, we do not want to obsess about an unknown future. What we do is we live in an expanding universe. That's proven. Within this last generation, they proved that this universe is expanding, and this expansion is accelerating. You cannot go back in time because the entire universe has to contract, and that's never going to happen. So you, metaphorically, to stay in compliance with this, is you don't want to go back in time. You want your life to only move forward. I was in the life enhancement industry and for about 4 or 5 years, and I really wanted to understand how to make this industry predictable. What were the predictable principles that could be taught and reproduced by anyone? And this journey led me to a gentleman named Adam Crane. Now, Adam Crane is one of the world's foremost biofeedback, neurofeedback practitioners. In the process of his life, he became good friends and acquaintances with David Bohm and Jiddu Krishnamurti. David Bohm was Einstein's understudy at Princeton, and Jiddu Krishnamurti was probably one of the foremost philosophers, and some people's one of the greatest minds of the last century. Be that as it may, Jiddu, I got to meet Adam and talk to him about this concept of suffering. This just thing at the time, I forget what was going on, but there was so much suffering in the world, and I wanted to really understand it. So I was watching a lecture with Jiddu Krishnamurti, and he said, somebody asked this very question, and I was all of a sudden all ears. And he said, somebody says, what is the greatest source of human suffering? And Jiddu Krishnamurti said, thought. I was like, what is that? He's like, I didn't even know what he said. And then he said it again. He's got this Indian accent. And then he clarified the statement. He said, psychological time. Well, what does that mean? Something about it sounded right to me. I wanted to really get into this and say, what does that mean? Let me break that down. Well, what it means is that you cannot go in the past. You cannot obsess about an immutable, unchangeable past, and you cannot be nervous about an unsure future. What he's saying is to stay in the present moment. This is what he was talking about with psychological time. And what I want to do is I want to propose a concept to you that in an instant, in actually 550 milliseconds, which is a little over half a second, people alter the direction of their life based on this one superstition, this one concept of psychological time. When you say, I'll be happy someday, or you say, I'll be happy when, what you're doing is you're creating a trap which most people never escape from. Because what they're doing is they're acknowledging that they're unhappy now, so they pick a time in the future when they're going to be, do, or have something that's going to make them happy. This never works. What do we say about the law of attraction? What do we say about what's wrong? You can't move away from what you don't want. Psychological time is a superstition. It doesn't exist. Someday doesn't exist, and depending on how most people refer to it, like, oh, I'll start my diet tomorrow. Well, tomorrow really doesn't exist. There's no tomorrow on the calendar. Okay? So, this psychological time, let me tell you how it operates in your life. I'll be happy when I have a house. I'll be happy when I'm CEO. I'll be happy when I get married. For you to be happy in what you're calling your future, you have to be happy now. For you to be excited about an accomplishment in what you're calling your future, you have to be excited now. Now, you might get the car, the house, the relationship, but it's temporary relief from existential pain. There's no permanent happiness. How many people said, well, for me to be happy, I have to be married? And then how many people say, the only way I'm ever going to be happy is to be divorced? And I am not making, that is not something I'm taking lightly. But what it does is it shows the insanity of I'll be happy when. You must be happy now and then create. So here's the proper order of creation. Be, do, have. Be happy now. You already have everything you need. Do what you love, okay, and you automatically have what you want. But let's say you don't know what you'd love to do. Here's what I would say. Do the very best where you are now. Be happy now, okay? Happiness is something you see, not something you do, all right? So be happy now, not complacent. Be excited now, not falsely optimistic. Be excited about life, not complacent. So the proper order of creation is be, do, have. Be happy now. Do what you love. Have what you want. And cancel psychological time. The greatest source of human suffering happens in less than a little over half a second. 550 milliseconds. You make this decision. I'll be happy when I have this or that. It never works.